Welcome in to the Raiders Report. I'm your host for today's show, Jeremy Chuggs. Mitchell Renz almost back from injury. Mitch, we miss you. We love you. Can't wait to have you back. But on today's show, I'm going to rank the top off-season needs for the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, the Raiders season is done. They're not making the playoffs. They're already eliminated. But that doesn't stop us from making content here on the Raiders Report. So we're going to look forward to the offseason. We're going to look forward to what Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, hell, if they're even still here, what they need to do to put the silver and black back on top. And that's why you got to sub it up. Subscribe for the latest Raiders news and rumors. It doesn't matter what's going on with this team, with this organization. No matter how good they are, no matter what's going on, we're going to still bring you Raiders content. So on today's show, we're looking past the season. We're looking to the offseason to what the Raiders need to do. First up, special teams. I think this is the, bottom of the list for needs for this team. They have a pretty good special teams unit already, and I know some people might be looking at me and saying, Jeremy, can we trust Daniel Carlson moving forward? Do we need a new kicker? No, I still think you're good. Daniel Carlson has had a somewhat down year for his ranks. 25 of 30 on field goals. He's still perfect this season on extra points. I still think he's a top half of the league kicker that you have. And when you have those guys, you keep them on the team. I'm good with Daniel Carlson. Obviously, A.J. Cole, maybe the best punter in the NFL. I think the special teams unit is in a fine spot. If they don't make a single move for the special teams this offseason, hey, I'm cool with it. I don't know about you. So they're at the very bottom of my list for needs. Right next to it, and I honestly could have flip-flopped these. Tight end. You are sitting very pretty at tight end, mostly because you selected maybe the best tight end in the entire National Football League this past offseason in Brock Bowers. 87 receptions, 933 yards, 4 touchdowns. He broke the rookie receiving record for tight ends with 87 receptions already on the year, and we have 4 more games to play. He has been fantastic. And behind him, you have Michael Mayer, who in his second season, he missed a ton of time this year due to personal reasons and stuff that we actually don't even know about here on the channel. But I still think that this, group, this team is in a good spot. Michael Mayer, like I said, he's already back, but you're in a good spot. You have your tight end 1, your tight end 2, Harrison Bryant. He hasn't been incredible this year, but as a tight end 3, he is very serviceable. I think the Raiders are set for the next couple of years at the tight end spot. But the question remains. Obviously, Brock Bowers could be in consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Is he going to win it? No, because he doesn't play quarterback. But that doesn't mean he's not one of the best offensive rookies in the entire National Football League. The question is, though, should the Raiders have traded up instead of drafting Brock Bowers? A lot of people were hoping they would go up and get a Michael Penix, maybe a Bo Nix, maybe a J.J. McCarthy. Did they make the right move in drafting Brock Bowers instead of trading up? Let me know down in the comments section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and let me know. Should the Raiders have drafted Brock Bowers instead of trading up in this past year's draft? Next up, I'm going to go defensive line. And obviously, we had the news this week around the defensive line. And, obviously, Charles Snowden, I don't want to get too much into all of that with his DUI and everything, but besides that, I think the defensive line is in a great spot. You have Max Crosby, you have Christian Wilkins going back into the next season. Those are your 2 cornerstones. They're 2 amazing players, but another player who has really come on of late for the Las Vegas Raiders is this guy right here, K'Lavon Chaisson, who I really hope the Raiders can find a way to re-sign this offseason, but past that as well, I think you're really liking what you're seeing out of Tyree Wilson as well. The former top 10 pick for Las Vegas has started to come into his own this season, making the Raiders defensive line one of the strong points on this team. I think going into next year, you don't really have to add much, just maybe some pieces here and there, some depth pieces at the defensive line, defensive end, defensive tackle. I think you're pretty set at that spot if you're Las Vegas. Next up is going to be the linebacker spot, and this is where we're actually getting into areas of concern, areas of need for Las Vegas. Obviously, we love what we've seen from Robert Spillane, and I think I speak for a lot of Raider Nation in saying I hope they re-sign Robert Spillane. He has been an amazing captain, amazing signal caller, the guy with the green dot for this defense. He gives you that Max Crosby mentality, but at the linebacker spot, 118 tackles on the season for Spillane. He has been fantastic for the silver and black. Obviously, you have Divine Diablo, who I don't know what his future holds in Las Vegas. You drafted Tommy Eichenberg. Could use a little bit more depth at this position. I wouldn't mind going out and signing a guy or two, maybe drafting somebody later on in the draft at the linebacker spot. But in terms of needs, there's a couple other positions that I think the Raiders need a little bit more than linebacker this offseason. I'll get into those in just a moment, but couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our sponsor over at PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there, making your holiday season just a little bit brighter. Ho, ho, ho. Make some money and make sure you fill those stockings with cash and not coal with our sponsor over at PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America with over 5 million active members. Hey, you can win up to 200 times your money today on PrizePicks. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. And it's not just football, folks. You also got basketball, baseball, hockey, even MMA. And I'm looking at my guy right now, Jack Lauderay. I know he loves some e-gaming. They even have that on the app as well. So go check it out right now. Here's my Monday Night Football lineup. I got Brock Bowers. Yeah, give me the moron 70.5 receiving yards. Fortunately, I'm also going to have to go with the moron Bijan Robinson rushing yards. He's been fantastic. The Raiders' rushing defense has been so-so as of late. But Kirk Cousins, he's been so give me the less on his pass yards. You can use my picks. Go against my picks. Just do it over on PrizePicks. And during the month of December, it's Picksmas over on PrizePicks. They're giving away 2 free picks in the month of December and giving away more than $30 million in rewards. So go get started today with our sponsor in PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So what's stopping you from getting started today with PrizePicks? Run your game. Next up, these are the areas of major concern for the Raiders because these positions are kind of going to make it or break you. I know you're probably looking at this #1 spot, but corner is going to be a sneaky area of concern this offseason. As we look at the depth chart, Jacorian Bennett has come on of late. He's been really good, but big question marks everywhere else. The Cameron Richardson, I don't know if you can trust him. He's had a very roller coaster up and down rookie season. Nate Hobbs, what is going to be his future with this organization? And a very big question mark around this guy right here, Jack Jones. Because coming into this season, I think a lot of Raider fans were very pumped up for Jack Jones in his second year in Las Vegas after he joined AP last year for the Silver and Black. But he's been a very boomer bust guy this season for Las Vegas' secondary. I mean, he's been a guy who's made some really good plays, but on the other hand, he's gotten burned multiple times and he's put a lot of bad tape out there. Do you trust Jack Jones in being your starting outside corner? That's a big question mark. That's a big I don't know, because Jack Jones, I don't know if he's consistent enough to be your starting outside corner going into next season. I think Jacorian Bennett, you've been pleasantly surprised with his progress, but Jack Jones, he's a lot of this. He gives you a lot of good plays, but then he'll turn around and then he'll get toasted on another play. So I don't know how they feel about Jack Jones, if they're comfortable with him starting next season. If not, that's another area where you need to find a starter this offseason. Next up, safety, where you have your starters going into the year, both being free agents. You have Trevon Merrick and Marcus Epps, who could hit the market this offseason. That leaves you with, Isaiah Pola-Mao, who he's been decent, but if I told you Isaiah Pola-Mao was your #1, if he's your top safety, that's not very good news for the Silver and Black. Obviously, you drafted a couple guys the past couple of years. You have Cam Smith. Chris Smith out of Georgia. You have Trey Taylor out of the Air Force Academy. But I'm not very confident in either of those guys either. I think you have to sign one of these two guys. Either Trevon Merrick, who a former second-round pick out of TCU, has looked pretty decent this year, if you ask me. 2 interceptions, 9 pass breakups on the season. I think he's been pretty good for Las Vegas. But then you also have the guy who was injured early in the year, Marcus Epps, who I thought last year was a pleasant surprise for Patrick Graham and this defense. Obviously, it sucks that he got hurt. We weren't able to see him for much of this season, but I think you got to sign one of these two. So I'm going to ask you folks at home, if you were in the room with Tommy Telesco, if you were looking at Antonio Pierce, you were in the front office, and they said, hey, we can only sign one of these, who would you sign? Would it be Trevon Merrick, type TM, or Marcus Epps, type, I didn't even realize that, type me. Type me if you want Marcus Epps, type TM for Trevon Merrick. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Next up, and this was a toss-up for me. I was really between these two. Obviously, I think you all might know who the number one position is, but wide receiver in this next one was kind of flip-flop for me because ever since you traded away Devontae Adams, your receiver room has been very You have Jacoby Myers, who I think he is a really good receiver, but he, in my eyes, is not a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2. He's a really good wide receiver 2, but I don't think you can be a serious, contender, a serious organization in this league with Jacoby Myers being your wide receiver 1. Like I said, wide receiver 2, maybe one of the best in the league. Your top option? I don't know. And people might argue, of course, Brock Bowers is your wide receiver 1 de facto from the tight end spot. He's been that good, which could be an argument. But if you're wanting, whoever's going to be tossing the rock for you next season to feel comfortable, to be confident, to have a really good season, you might need to I'm not even going to say you might. You need to upgrade this wide receiver room. And Jacoby Myers, he's a good starting point, but who else do you have? Trey Tucker has been okay. Like, the rest of the room is very I think you need to add some talent, need to add some flashiness for whoever is going to be throwing the football for Las Vegas next year. Next up, and maybe this is my bias because I'm a former offensive lineman. Maybe, hey, I just love to build in the trenches. Maybe that's just me. But I think you need to work on this offensive line because a lot of injuries across the board. You signed Andre James this past offseason, but he's had a, injury plagued, and even when he was playing, a down season. Of course, you have Jackson, the right side of the line might be solidified for next season already. You have Jackson Powers-Johnson, Dylan Parham, and DJ Glaze. But left guard Jordan Meredith, okay, are we feeling comfortable with that? But maybe the reason why I have this at number 2 is because I don't know what is going on with Colton Miller. He doesn't have I believe he doesn't have much of anything guaranteed left on his contract. And this year, Colton's really struggled. This whole offense has struggled, of course, but Colton has struggled as well, coming off of injury this past offseason during training camp, during the preseason. He was battling injury all the way up into the start of the regular season. 13 games played, 7 sacks allowed this year for Colton. I've met Colton before. He's a mammoth of a human being, an amazing, nice guy. But does he want a new contract? Does he want to stay in Las Vegas? That is going to be a big question. And if that's not the case, left tackle behind this next position might be the most important position the Raiders need to figure out. Because do you trust maybe a Thayer Munford? Do you trust somebody else to block for the most important offseason need for the Raiders, which is the quarterback position? I don't think this is, news to anybody out there that the Raiders are desperate for a quarterback. Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder, Aiden O'Connell, Carter Bradley, you can throw anybody else on there. Jake Luton, who they just signed to the practice squad. None of those guys are going to cut it at all. And you're not going to win in this league if you don't have a good quarterback. So they need to address that spot one way or another. Hopefully in the draft, if they do have the number 1 overall pick, they're able to get a single color, get a quarterback. But if not, if they happen to win a game and they get out of that number 1 overall pick, they need to figure it out regardless. Because ever since Derek Carr left this team, they've been in quarterback purgatory. They don't know where to go. Jimmy G, Gardner Minshew, both signings that did not work out at all for the Raiders. So they need to figure out who's going to be throwing the ball for this team next season. That's all I got for you on today's show, folks. If you want to follow me on Twitter, give me a shout out at Jeremy Chuggs. The DMs are open. Hit me up. I'm always down to chop it up, talk ball, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have over 180,000 subscribers on the channel for good reason. We are the #1 Raiders channel here on YouTube, bringing you daily videos all year long. So hit that sub button if you want more Raiders content for free.